Hey everybody, welcome back. We are here. This is our WrestleScream live stream with Zap and Slash. And let's just make sure we are up and running on all of our socials, which I think we are. It looks like we are. So we are going to be talking a little bit about a lot today. And one of those topics is obviously Buffy, because there has been some news that has broken out about the show that was going to be a new show on Hulu that was going to be coming to us. And you have a history with Buffy. You're a bigger Buffy fan than I am. So you've really been following this. And then also, one of the things that we run into because we're such horror fans is that we watch nothing but horror. So every now and then I try and weave us in a little bit of a different direction. So we actually watched the entire Rocky franchise this past week, all the way up until we saw the first Creed movie. So we're going to be talking a little bit about a lot of things, but I do want to talk about one really cool thing, and that's going to be WrestleScream, which you can get your tickets online at WrestleScream.com. It's October 9th and 10th. And just to give you guys an idea of some of the superstars we're going to be bringing in, I want you to check this out, and then we'll be right back.
WrestleScream is invading Knoxville on October 9th and 10th. With your favorite horror movie stars and pro wrestlers from WWE, WCW, NWA, and AAA. With reunions from Return of the Living Dead, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween, and Sleepaway Camp. Along with stars from Marvel, Nickelodeon, and all your favorite 90s pop culture icons. Then, as night falls, NWA Krossfire Wrestling brings you the biggest wrestling event in East Tennessee on each night with its yearly spectacle, Black Harvest. Vendor spots are selling fast, and tickets are on sale now starting at $20 on WrestleScream.com. Taking place at the Hilton Knoxville Airport in Alcoa, Tennessee. WrestleScream, the convention to die for.
Now, a few superstars that we did not talk about, and you did not see in that video, which we have announced, is Jenna Jameson is also going to be on hand at WrestleScream along with Carlito, and Jerry Lynn, and Clayton Landy. Clayton Landy from A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Blob, Sully, and Zombie Strippers. Interesting. We got Zombie Strippers with Clayton Landy and Jenna Jameson also from Zombie Strippers. Pretty cool. Now, before we get started, I do want to talk about NWA Krossfire because NWA Krossfire is coming up on April 10th, and we got a lot of matches already announced for this huge event. That's right, never back down. Never back down. Excuse you. Never back down. Your mic's off.
Yeah, because I can mute it off and on, off and on.
Well, there goes my
Never
dear old brother messaging me. So, never back down. We're building that up as well right now, and we're going to go ahead and announce a few of the matches that are going to be taking place at Never Back Down, and one of those is going to be a really huge matchup, and that's for the tag team titles. And that's Will West and Tyler Ivins versus Chase Stevens and Shane Williams, better known as Team Nashville. Will West and Tyler Ivins, obviously from 99.1 The Sports Animal. So that's going to be taking place on Friday, October 10th at the Sevierville Civic Center on 200 Gary Wade Boulevard, Sevierville, Tennessee. You can get your tickets online now at KFW Wrestling Events. Also in action, the NWA champion is going to be putting his title on the line. That's right, Silas Mason versus Jamison Shook, along with a KFW throwback match. Trooper T is returning to action, going up against Overkill. Me and you, along with Kylie, are going to be in action against Paradox and Vale. This is a Final Fight Tables match. Final Fight Tables match. That one's going to be pretty crazy. Like I said, Silas Mason and Jamison Shook as well. And Kenzie Page is going to be in action against Sean Christopher. So the card is stacked. We haven't even finished announcing all of the matches that are going to be taking place at Never Back Down. Again, you can get your tickets online. Just go to KFW Wrestling Events and grab those up quickly. They're already selling really fast.
Now, question: can you and I get some of those glowing street fight powers that everyone seems to be getting?
Yeah, whenever I hit people, they're going to go, That's what's going to happen at the end of the match whenever I put one of them through a table.
Or they will turn to dust.
Turn to
Like
dust.
the
Yes,
Buffy show.
it'll be a fatality. Now, before we get to Buffy, because we do have a lot to talk about with Buffy, guys, WrestleScream, like I said, is coming up October 9th and 10th. A lot of our vendors are coming in. We still got spots available for vendors if anybody wants to vend, but we have quite a few people who are going to be vending already. I'm going to announce a few of those now, and one of them is Grindhouse Video. Grindhouse Video in Knoxville, Tennessee, on Kingston Pike. Those people are stacked to the gills with all of your physical media, merchandise, movies, action figures,
I was
posters.
surprised when they had baskets because, like,
Mhm.
that's definitely needed in a place like that.
Yeah, Grindhouse Video is going to be at WrestleScream. They're going to be selling some physical media. And then also at WrestleScream, just remember we're going to be having a wrestling event on each evening hosted by NWA Krossfire. So, along with all the superstars that you have seen, we are going to have wrestling events as well. You can get your tickets online. We still have some super VIP and regular VIP available. And you can look at all the perks for those online as well. Just go to WrestleScream.com. So now let's get it out of the way. Let's talk Buffy.
Oh, you even did a little picture there.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to show everybody. You don't have to take it down because I can. So I've got my jacket. I got this years ago. It's the TV show font, and on the back is the comic books. So I'm obviously the fan, and just like the executive that was working on the show, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Matt's not really one. But
Yeah, but I wouldn't shit on it. I wouldn't cause it to get canceled. I wouldn't like.
So yeah, we'll begin like this. So we also have a friend, actually Overkill's wife, Vixen Chastity. She also likes Buffy a lot. So I just woke up one day to Matt showing me this video. Like what a way to wake up. And Sarah Michelle Gellar begins this Instagram video like I have some she has some bad news and that it's not going forward. And then Ryan, who is the little girl in Firestarter, and I think she's in the Star Wars stuff now. Her video is pretty pitiful too. I mean, it does sound like there's a lot of work put into it, but from my research, I even read the script that leaked and everything. No, you should not do that. Sarah Michelle Gellar is
Did
telling
you turn the mute off on your mic?
Yes. Why? Can you not hear me?
I'm just making sure. Let's see. The technical guys just want to make sure. I want to. I think you guys can hear me though. Mine's popping off.
How about this? Can you?
There we go.
Okay.
That's better. Okay,
All right.
start over. Buffy.
Let me start over. Okay, so one day I woke up and Matt was showing me this video of Sarah Michelle Gellar, who's been not only in Buffy, but she's been in Scream 2 as Cece. I know you did last summer as Helen, which we'll get to that. And she announced that they're not going forward. I felt like in the video there was a heavy disappointment on her part. And Ryan, who was in Firestarter, um, she's also in Star Wars, I believe, some of the Star Wars stuff. Her video is pretty pitiful as well. It's just the of course I'm upset about the cancellation of a TV show that's been in the talks since off and on since the early 2000s to be done. It's kind of like Freddy versus Jason. It stayed in limbo with scripts forever. This is probably the longest. And then they work on it. She gets this girl, Ryan, and this guy apparently, because Sarah Michelle Gellar does not talk negative publicly about people. She didn't even do it about Joss Whedon. And then when this happens, all of a sudden the first negative thing I've seen that woman say online is that executive, and you can look it up and you can find out who it is because there was only one male executive producer. He let them know all throughout the process that he was not a fan. He was not a fan of the original. And my thing is, I don't know how Hollywood works, but I do know how like KFW, NWA, Breaking Con, all these things, I know how they work. And I'm pretty sure if you don't like something, I'm pretty sure you don't have to
Hello,
be
Aaron.
involved. I mean, I just don't understand like what if I like Buffy or not. It kind of feels like he went out of his way just to make sure this doesn't happen. Um, I mean, think about the money. It's not just the show. There's comic books that continue from the very last season of Buffy and Angel that goes on, and then they reboot and did like a multiverse thing in the comics. Um, there's all kinds of things in the Buffy line. I mean, it's about a girl who she's like a living trope of a ditzy blonde who should die in a horror movie. All these horror movies we watch, that girl that dies running up the stairs or um, having sex in bed or whatever. Buffy is the trope of that character. So it makes sense a lot of us horror fans would like Buffy. And Sarah Michelle Gellar was a big part of the 2000s, the 90s. So it's a little sad.
I think that Buffy came along a little bit around the time, or at least the time that I noticed that Buffy even existed. I was really getting into more of the extreme horror,
Yeah.
while a lot of people were enjoying this horror fantasy show, which was keeping horror alive on television. And the horror on television has always been, it's kind of a rocky road, at least until The Walking Dead.
It's very Kevin Williamson, CW.
Yes.
That's that's the thing. I agree with people like you and the executive too. Because confession, guys, I did not actually start liking Buffy and watching it until I was 19 years old. Um, which was right around the time they had their little photo shoot anniversary. Um, but honestly, it was all the Joss Whedon um, scandal that made me watch it. I was like, well, I don't want to see what's so great about the show. This show that everyone keeps referring to the writing. The writing, this show is apparently shown in English classes, college classes, that, Firefly, and Seinfeld, apparently.
Well, and I always forget that Josh Whedon was a big part of, the Buffy universe, and that he basically created it, because my memory of Buffy was really the only thing I knew about Buffy was the movie, and I thought the movie was fantastic. Um, Aaron says that Buffy was one of the best intro to horror shows since Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. The biggest difference I think in that world though is that Tales from the Crypt was HBO and Buffy was, regular cable television. So you could only go
so far.
so far.
Well, apparently this Hulu one, looking at the script, there was a lot of language, bloody violence. Again, don't read the script. Sarah Michelle Gellar really wants people not to because it's not finished and it's not what was actually going to be out there. Sometimes scripts are just written as like an idea of many. But I did like what I read. Was
Aaron
Buffy.
says Tales from the Crypt will always be the GOAT. Well, okay, so even for me, my biggest entry into Tales from the Crypt was even the movies. Although I would watch the shows from time to time, but with Buffy, I always thought it was like uh, horror for teenagers and teenage girls. And that's not necessarily correct
Only three
because
seasons, because it's
well,
like she's going through life, and then she graduates high school, and the seasons of her as an adult, they get really dark and dank.
well, even years later, I got into Vampire Diaries and I got into some of those other shows. But so what's really interesting about this is that every single show has had some kind of resurgence, whether it be Scrubs. I mean, obviously, some of them you can't, like Friends and Seinfeld, they're not going to do that, but they've had like reunions,
Yeah. Fresh Prince of Bel Air did one. Sarah Michelle Gellar actually. I was surprised she came back for the photo. If you guys Google the Buffy reunion, there'll be photos, group graveyard photos of Joss, the whole cast. The only one that was not really there in person was Nicholas Brandon, which is Xander, 'cause he's dealing with alcohol addiction issues. But then they edited him in. Um, but I think what we were supposed to take from Buffy, because the Vampire Diaries came out the same time Buffy came out with For You. I was like middle school, high school when Vampire Diaries first came out. You were middle school, high school ish when Buffy came out. Um,
except I was so deep into the more graphic versions of horror. Chastity says, "Here's hoping it gets picked up somewhere else." And Aaron says, "Tales from the Crypt wasn't always HBO exclusive. It used to come back to AMC back in the day." I did not know that.
yeah.
As it comes to Chastity saying, "Here's hoping it gets picked up somewhere else," I almost see that as a certainty because this is picking up enough
Netflix, HBO
traction.
Max. I feel like one of those
Something,
two are
yeah.
going to.
That's certainly picking up enough traction that someone is going to pick it up at some point. And here's the thing. So Sarah Michelle Gellar's had a few interviews, and this is the only reason why we know so much that's going on. And she's had quite a few interviews, and one of those interviews, she said that the biggest issue was that there was a producer that was a producer for the pilot that they were shooting. He was going to be a producer for the show, and he made it very clear on a daily basis that he
Passive
was not a
aggressively.
fan of the show. He'd never watched the show. So for her, she felt like the writing was kind of on the wall.
And nothing was being taken seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she said I wasn't so surprised. She held her negativity, her negative info in until this was all said and done. Because I got to give it to her. For weeks, her and Zoe or Chloe Zhao or whatever, and a few other people were taking pictures together, and it's kind of sad that she had to work with that because I know what it's like to work with somebody that's like that. It makes passive aggressive comments the whole time, so you feel like the quality of your work is not that great because you got one bad apple in there, and that bad apple was a big apple. I mean, executive producer. That's I mean, a lot of people keep saying, "Well, it's not going to be great because Joss." I get it. Joss Whedon's a cretin monster, but he's great at writing. He's amazing, in my opinion, at writing.
Aaron says if it wasn't for Buffy, we wouldn't have gotten Charmed or the new Sabrina
Nope,
the Teenage Witch.
I believe that
So
because I mean, think about it, guys. It's kind of funny because when this was happening, um, Sarah Michelle Gellar was in Scream 2. Got killed, died as one of those tropes. I know what you did last summer. A really good character, learned her lesson, died. and then all of a sudden you see her as Buffy. And it's like, oh, so we're seeing the parallels that this is a character that the same character in the horror movies that this actress is in. And that's what I liked about it is, oh, it's a show about literally a ditzy blonde who should die, but somehow was gifted powers, so she doesn't. And that's what I liked about it. I started watching it because my high school life was similar to Buffy's, and then my adult life became similar. Um, it was just, it would be great to see something like this, not just for sakes of horror and Final Girls and Scream Queen characters, but maybe give another generation something to grow up to. Because there's some, I grew up with kids that weren't allowed to watch the horror movies that me and Matt watch, but could get away with it with Buffy.
Well, and Buffy, or sorry. Well, Buffy is one of those unique situations where horror and fantasy and mainstream television all cross over at the same time. And you had so many characters that were introduced that whenever you think about the movie of Buffy, the main character was Buffy, but then you had Angel, who ended up having his own show. And so many things
Well,
spurned off of Buffy.
and the Angel show gave characters like Cordelia, who was like a mean girl, Regina George, but then in Angel, she became a really good heroine character. She got powers of her own. She was kind of screwed over too. A lot of the women in this show had been screwed over a lot with this fucking, excuse me, with this name Buffy, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's more like the uh the career of women slayers or something. I don't know because like this show, but people keep making sacrifices for it because it is an important thing in horror, fantasy, and young adult entertainment. Which, by the way, I noticed she's trying to make a similar resurgence in her career like back then. She's in Ready or Not too, and it kind of seems like she's a big part of it because for the new I Know What You Did Last Summer, she and I think the director of the new I Know What You Did Last Summer made like a surprise appearance in a random movie theater one day. Um, she's always been one of my favorite like victims in horror movies. I don't know.
And she's aged very well. Really, to be honest with you, even though the sequence didn't make a lot of sense, her scene in the new I
I
Know
know
What
what
You
you did
Did
last
Last Summer was probably the best, really kind of scene in the movie, and her inclusion in Ready or Not just shows that she's ready to kind of springboard back into the zeitgeist and into film and television. She took a very long hiatus. She did an interview talking about how she took a long break whenever Robin Williams passed away. That just kind of messed her up a little bit.
That was the same year as the Buffy reunion.
Yeah. And so to see her come back into the fold and then this to happen obviously is going to put a little bit of a sour taste in her mouth. But I have faith that the franchise will get picked up in some way, shape, or form by another streaming service. The question is going to be because she made it very clear that the the pilot that they were shooting, she was like, if it leaks online, don't watch it because
It's
really
not
the whole
official.
reason for a pilot to exist is that it tests the waters and that some things may change, some things might not change, and that the original pilot for Buffy was totally different from what the show
So
became.
that's what I was talking about with Matt earlier. If you guys want to, after you get done watching this, watch Google or YouTube Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I think it's 1996 or 97 original pilot. A different actress plays as Willow. I think it's the same actress that plays in Yellow Jackets. Everything was different. Sarah Michelle Gellar had brown hair, different clothes. She didn't really look like the blonde cheerleader, for one. Um, the original pilot's actually kind of cool to watch, but I see what she means because after that pilot, what people don't know is there was a little bit of a scare there that the show back then wasn't going to happen. It was almost an entire year before the actual pilot came out. Um, so I mean, I don't know. I'm very biased because I grew up loving Sarah Michelle Gellar. Um, we won't get into personal things, but if I were into certain types of people, she was definitely one of my crushes growing up. Um,
Like mine is Femke Jensen.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So, and I think, like I said, I think the show's going to get picked up. I don't think that that's going to be an issue. And in transitioning into talking about our next topic, I do want to mention it was really cool. Jake and I went today to Grindhouse, and we picked up
yeah,
some really cool stuff that we're going to kind of show to you guys. I implore you to head to Grindhouse Video off of Kingston Pike or visit them online and check out their selection. He got this awesome Beyond shirt, the Beyond.
yes, it's one of my favorites. We also earlier this week he got me the cemetery man.
Yeah, Dillamorte Dillamore, the Cemetery Man, a T-shirt from the Cemetery Man.
Well, and I got this really huge bumper sticker. It says "I love reading." It's the Necronomicon. And then I got Mario Bava's son's movie.
A Blade in the Dark, yes.
But Matt, as far as movies go, Matt has the better.
So we got Mikey, Region B, version of Mikey, and the brand new director's cut version of Night of the Living Dead, the remake by Tom Savini. And we got the Eyeball, Death Walks on High Heels, and Giallo Essentials, which includes Possession. So
It's a box set,
a box set.
which they
So
do. They have multiple Giallo box sets. I've noticed the whole Italian horror is becoming more popular, which it's a great place for that. Italian horror,
and we talked about
Hammer
that
films.
today because Grindhouse was closed down for like 2 years
Yeah.
and they were just doing online sales and then they opened back up. And he said there seems to be a resurgence in people buying physical media, especially, Gen Zs. And I can believe it because I learned recently that, like, in the world, alcohol sales have plummeted because teenagers and aren't drinking
And
anymore.
young
They're not
adults.
partying anymore.
Well, I've
They're
noticed a lot
staying
of
in their
clubs are
homes.
shutting down.
They're staying in their homes. They're watching movies and they're eating gummies. That's all they're doing.
A lot of them are going to the gym too.
A lot of them are going to the gym. Yeah, there is a health conscious kick with younger people, which is great. That's fantastic. Now, we decided to take a little bit of a break this week and we watched something a little bit different. And we sat back, we spent 2 nights and we watched basically the entire Rocky
Rocky.
franchise.
That's why our poster has Buffy or Sarah Michelle Gellar and Rocky uh, in a ring, a WrestleScream ring. It's because I felt like the two characters are a little similar. I mean, but Sylvester Stallone, when it comes to 70s and 80s, is more of the action movie hero.
Although I did not consider the first Rocky film an action film. Did you? Like, I really didn't.
I feel like if you look at it, put the first Rocky and the first Superman film, put them together, they kind of do similar things. It's like the story of a superhero. He may not be like superpowers and stuff, but he is a hero to his community.
Well, both those films definitely have a 70s vibe to them, but Rocky really felt like and it was to an extent a low budget kind of drama. You're dealing with this guy who is
Soft exploitation too.
yeah, he's like he's completely down on his luck all the time. He tries to get a job, he loses the job. He tries to get the girl ignores him. He tries to, do some amateur boxing, but that's really as far as he can get with it.
Well, and what inspired us to start watching these is the TV show we're watching. This Is Us. It features I forgot his name. He looks a lot like Sylvester Stallone. He was in Gilmore Girls as Luke's nephew. He has like a sort of Jersey and New York accent. He's a real handsome guy. Um, and then his character as a dad, they started making references that he loved Rocky, which was weird because I told Matt the whole time this guy, his character reminds me of Rocky because he started out down on his
And
luck.
I had mentioned,
It's inspired a lot.
yeah, I had mentioned, and the character is filming a movie, and in the movie that he's filming, Sylvester Stallone's in it. And I had talked a lot about watching Rocky,
Rambo was more my
and
pick growing up.
you were a little hesitant because you had a memory growing up of watching Rocky a lot because your dad's a big fan of Rocky.
But I
And
never seen. I just okay. So I saw Rocky 4, and then that newest one, Rocky Balboa. I didn't watch any of the Creeds, and I think what it is the newest Rocky Balboa kind of just made me sad because I guess I just didn't want to go back into it. It's kind of like a life lesson. Like it's better to have loved than to have not at all.
it's better to have lived and loved than not loved at all.
Yeah, because Adrian's
Yeah.
dead in that newest one, and I remember as a kid, um, that was around the time I think my papa had passed, and I remember, despite that, I mean it with Sylvester Stallone and these films, mostly Rocky over Rambo. It's very easy to feel for the character. I mean, Sylvester Stallone is one of the best male actors and
He plays
creators.
the Everman, right? And he wrote that script. And then whenever he was going to sell the script, the studio wanted to get somebody else to act in it, and he kind of demanded that it was him who be in it. And he is the Everman, and he plays that character so very well. But what makes the movie is his relationship with Adrian, because the moment that he finally gets the girl, if you notice in the first movie, the moment he gets the girl is whenever his life starts to get better. He gets the title shot. He gets all these things, and it starts with Adrian, and it's his relationship with Adrian that propels the
It's an
50.
inner thing, yeah.
Yes, and it really, as it goes on, if you watch the second film, I mean, and obviously in the first, spoiler warning, in the first film, he loses that fight, but he has this amazing line of dialogue the night before the fight where he's laying down next to her, and he had been watching footage of the champion, and he's like, I don't think I can win. He goes, but it's not even about winning for me anymore. I just want to be able to go the distance, which means I want to be able to go the entire 15 rounds. I don't want to get knocked out. I just want to show people that I'm not a bum, that I can go the distance with the champion. I probably can't beat him, but as long as I can go the distance, that's what counts. That's what matters. And he does, but he doesn't win the fight. He loses by decision. And in the second one, the champ is getting all these messages and hate mail and stuff saying the fight was rigged and all this. Even as he's preparing for his rematch and Adrian's pregnant, is once she has the baby and she's in the hospital, it completely wrecks him. It isn't until she wakes up and says, I need to tell you something. And then he says, what? And then she says, when? And then Mickey's in the back and he's like, what are we waiting for? That's also the second one is the movie so heavy with Mickey and him training with Mickey and Mickey saying your eye got messed up and he's bringing his hand closer and then he smacks him in the face and he's like, I'm an old man. Look what I did to you. The champ will he'll kill you. He'll beat you like a pulp, you know. And he just had so many classic lines in that second movie. You'll be, you know, eating thunder and crapping lightning and stuff. And it was just, but it's all comes down to his relationship with Adrian. Because once she tells him when, boom, he kicks it into high gear. He pulls out the victory. Third film, that's whenever things start to go off the rail for me a
Well,
little
if
bit.
you noticed in the first one, um, Adrian's character is very meek, shy. Almost seems like she's not interested in him. But the only reason why you knew as an audience that she was, and this is probably the credit goes to her acting, was the little side glances when he's not looking and her longing. And that's what I loved about this actress, and I'm very surprised this actress wasn't in more stuff. She reminds me a lot of Holly Marie Combs from Charm, speaking of Charm. Um, but what I noticed was not only when she went to his place, she didn't want to go in. He had to, like, in this day and age, this scene would have probably been a little controversial because, you know, she's saying she doesn't want to go in, and then she goes in and she wants to leave, and wants to obviously kiss her. But it's funny because everything he did in this scene was very gentlemanlike and letting her know that she has the lead. And I notice her character still does the same thing when he does his fight, and she stays in the back. Remember, she's not watching him.
Mhm.
She only comes out to watch when she starts hearing the whole fight kind of climax. And ever since she went out to go watch him in that moment, every single other movie, she always watched, whether it's TV or in person, because
Because
she
she
is
is,
the type of person, the character that doesn't want to watch it,
yeah, even in the second movie, she's watching from home,
but she's
you
still
know,
watching.
but she's watching. And, that's whenever he has the classic line at the end. He's like, "Yo, Adrian, we did it." And it's always Brian says it was inspired by a real boxer named Chuck Wepner.
Oh, see, we thought it was Sylvester Stallone's own personal experiences.
I mean, probably with him growing up in Philadelphia, and it's probably there's probably a lot of local legends and boxers
Yeah, because
from
it's
that area.
very similar. See, what I like watching about watching it, and I wish I would have when I grew up. Just like with Buffy, I didn't watch Buffy until I was older. Um, I like the Philadelphia community of it all because my grandmother, before they moved to Knoxville in '82 from Queens, New York, the way they describe it, Queens was so similar. My mom loves Rocky. My dad loves Rocky, even though my dad he doesn't like Yankees. Well, let's just say that. Um, but he still likes Rocky, Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger. My dad is actually responsible for raising me on Terminator, Rambo, even the Expendables. The Expendables I know are horrible. At
Brian
least
says that Webner was a club fighter who went 15 rounds with Muhammad Ali and went the distance, and it inspired Stallone to write the screenplay. Brian also wondered if he could ask me a question. Yeah, Brian, shoot, you can ask anything you
sounds a
want.
lot like Rocky 3. No, Rocky 2
Rocky one, that's the first one. He goes the distance. He didn't beat.
with Creed.
Yes, yeah, he didn't beat him, but he went the distance. And then, so part three is where things kind of start to fall off the rail a little bit.
Yeah, what's his name again? The actual wrestler. I always forget his name.
That's Hogan. He played
Not
Thunder.
Hogan.
You're talking about Clubber Lang, Mr. T?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, he plays the villain Clubber Lang in the third one. And but this is the one that started to fall off the rails for me a little bit. And the reason it started to fall off the rails for me a little bit is in Rocky 1 and Rocky 2, Rocky is the same person. He's this kind of semi uneducated every man,
Italian.
Italian working man immigrant who lives basically on the
Was he
streets.
immigrant?
Yeah, I mean, he was Italian for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but immigrant means you're not legal.
No, that's an illegal immigrant. And he was Italian.
So he was that Italian.
Yeah, he was Italian.
My
He was
great grandmother was that Italian. Yeah.
So he is this kind of everyman character who is so lovable and just wants to be a good guy. And by the third movie, and he's still that same character in the second movie
Yes.
because they're trying to get him to do commercials and it's just not clicking. And by the third movie, when he's the champion, he's doing commercials. I mean, Stallone's face even looked different, but I think this is around the time he started like getting some work done and stuff.
Yeah.
But the character,
I think he had to, though.
yeah, the character changed for me completely. I'm not saying that it was bad. I'm just saying that he wasn't the poor everyman guy anymore.
Are you talking about in 3 when
Three
they had
and
money
four.
and stuff? Yeah, so that was the point. That was the point. He was getting soft, is what a lot of the characters were saying, because he had the money and stuff. And that's when Creed, God, when I seen that one.
Brian is asking, does he still want me? He says, do you still want me to host the Wrestling Jeopardy at the convention? Yes, very much so. I still have it on the books. I probably need to send you an email just to touch base with you, but it's very much still on the books. And then he says, the third one showed that Rockley was slowly becoming Apollo Creed.
Yes.
And that's why Lane
Yes.
beat the brakes off of him. Yes, this is very much true.
Yes, because he was getting, they kept saying he was getting soft and stuff. And what's funny is Creed was actually the Rocky, and he was reminding, which was what I loved about this. It was no longer about the relationship with the romance with Adrian. It was the relationship between Rocky and Creed switching and showing what a great friendship they have, because Rocky did for Creed what Creed does for Rocky in part 3, right? Because part 3 is the one where he goes up against.
You're thinking part 4. Part 4 is whenever Creed trains him. No, part 3. Sorry, you're correct. I get
Yeah, well, one of them he got real. I think a lot of it's
because Mickey dies.
I think a lot of it. I think a lot of it is Adrian's fault too, because she wants him to retire, and we already see he wants what Adrian wants, so I think his character kind of got lazy into it, and which not lazy. Lazy's not a good word for that, because for fighters, it is a little hard to revolve your whole life around getting your face beat.
Yeah, Brian says, and Apollo had to take him back to the old gym, which is correct. He took him to the other gym. Remember, he took him to Los Angeles,
Yeah.
where he trained with those people. And he said Apollo had to take him to the old gym and get the eye of the tiger. And fun fact, originally they wanted to use Another One Bites the Dust as the theme song, but Queen wanted too much money. So Stallone knew the lead singer of Survivor and asked him to write a song, and that became the Eye of the Tiger song, which I always associated with Rocky, like the first movie.
Oh, I'm glad they did that. Another One Bites the Dust is really
doesn't
bad
fit,
tone.
Really.
Yeah.
Well, and then in the fourth one, you have Apollo, once again stepping into the ring. And then he gets killed. Essentially, I mean, he does not essentially.
When I first watched that as a kid, because that was the one. I don't know what got into me about only watching that one, and then the Rocky Balboa. I don't know why I didn't watch the first one, but going into the franchise with that, it was kind of. I'm kind of glad I went back and watched all of them, because the effect of Apollo's death after losing Mickey, it hard pill to swallow. I mean, even going back and watching Creed now, it's kind of sad. I mean, because we
did not watch Balboa. We didn't watch Balboa.
We didn't. I had.
And I've seen it before too, but so
I don't want to go back into
that's
that.
where I get, once I mean, so here's the thing with the fourth movie. The fourth movie is a lot of fun. And it's Rocky in Russia, versus Drago. And what we do get out of the fourth movie, even though it is very cheesy, is we get the best montage. And there's not just one montage, there's like three montages. And my favorite song, even though everybody loves Eye of the Tiger, I'm all more about Hearts on Fire. Hearts on Fire is my favorite of the songs in it. And now it does get a little ham-fisted because we were right. I mean, we were still coming off of the Soviet, scare at that time. So even at the end, whenever he's giving the speech and all of the Russians are cheering for Rocky, and he gives a speech and he's like, "If I can change and be a better person, then you can change and you can be a better person." He's basically saying, if I can change and go back to my American roots, then you can love America too, Russia. So it does get a little ham-fisted, but it's a product of its time. And then we popped in Creed, and we watched Creed.
Yeah, because we didn't watch 5 either.
No, five is traditionally known as very bad.
I know, but I still want to see it because his actual son is in it, right? That's the one where his actual son is in it. I mean, I know his actual son pops in and out of the franchise as a kid too, but doesn't he play as his son?
He does. He plays as his son in the fifth film. Brian says Apollo gets killed in the ring by Ivan Drago because he thought it was an exhibition. And I hate to say it, Rocky should have thrown the towel in. That's right. There's the whole thing where Rocky is carrying with him the weight of Apollo's death, and he carries that all the way to the Creed movie. And we'll talk a little bit about that because the end of the Creed movie plays into that a little bit.
It gave Creed a purpose for Rocky's life.
Yeah, and then Brian says, "I will say one more thing. I hate to keep spam. No, don't worry about it, buddy. We have this system set up because we want people to comment.
We want more and
So,
more and more, yeah.
Rocky Balboa, did you get one thing by essentially pretending that the fifth film movie never happened? That is
Yeah,
correct. In the
okay.
Balboa movie, they pretend that the
One of
fifth film
those.
never happened.
Every franchise has one.
And it does have one of the greatest ever speeches in sports movie history. So, but whenever Creed starts, we get this amazing story that Apollo Creed had an affair. This kid, he doesn't have any family, but Creed's wife takes him in. It's not even her own child; she takes him in, and she raises him, and he becomes a fighter too. And he seeks out Rocky, and in finding Rocky, we find out in the fifth film that Paulie, who's another character I really loved, actually, his character went up and down in all the movies, but in the fourth film, whenever they're about to fight the Russian, they're walking to the ring, and Paulie tells him, he's like, "I just want to tell you something," and he's like, "I'm really proud of you. I don't know anyone that can do what you do, and I want you to know that I love you." And for me, for Paulie to say that, his character throughout all of the movies was always kind of jealous of Rocky because he wanted that fame, or he didn't want that fame, but he wanted success. He wanted the same type of success that Rocky had. And Paulie has another really good turn in the Balboa films. He kind of becomes the person that Rocky is attached to on an emotional level. Paulie is kind of the one that's next to him. But we learned that all those characters are gone. The only one that's left is Rocky, and he decides to take Creed under his wing and help him. And the boxing is filmed differently in this movie. It's filmed in a more realistic way, but
Fighting.
yeah. And there's the first Creed movie to me feels the most like the first Rocky movie. Don't you think so?
Yeah, no, it's supposed to. I feel like, speaking of revivals, reunions, reboots, I feel like, and I'm kind of glad that they did Creed, because look, now they're remaking Rambo, and it's going to be by, which I'm not going to discredit anyone or shit on anyone, but getting a completely different actor, younger. So with Rocky, they don't need to do that because Creed technically is the reboot. That's why it's so much like the first one. And you got a new generation character replacing the legacy. So now they'll never have to, no one's going to feel like they need to reboot it.
Brian said this is really cool, and he goes, "I will never be not impressed with just how incredible of a human being Dolph Lundgren is, who played the Russian in the fourth one. And in real life, apparently he can speak 5 different
Male
languages.
specimen too.
Yeah, 5 different languages, has a genius level IQ. So that is kind of crazy. Stallone found him. He was a bouncer, like at a bar. So, but Creed pulls on the same nature as the first Rocky movie because Adonis, he doesn't, his character is not a typical young man that we see in movies today. He's very humble. He treats everyone with respect. He's very sweet. He's sweet on the girl who's downstairs who has hearing problems and she's a musician.
The actress who plays as Valkyrie.
It's very smart that they didn't want to make his character snarky like most teenagers, or most young men in movies nowadays.
He kind of is, but that's culture from where he grew up.
A little bit, but he is.
His dad was like that.
Kind of similar to the character of Rocky in that he's very sweet, he's very humble.
He's a little bit of Apollo and Rocky because
he plays the character, like I said, very sweet, very humble. So I think Michael B. Jordan nailed the character of Creed. And the end fight, the sequence where the mom sends the shorts and they say Creed on the front and Johnson on the back. So it's paying respect to both of his family lineage, his father and his mother. So, but it goes back into that whole deal. We didn't even mention the fact that Rocky ends up getting he has like some kind of cancer in his lymph nodes, and so Creed's very much like, at first Rocky's like, I'm not gonna get chemo
because everybody once they're told it's in their lymph nodes.
And he dealt with Adrian having the same thing.
Yes.
Apparently. And his son lives in Canada. He has no family around him anymore.
That scene of
oh God, yeah, about him talking about his kid.
Of Creed, once he goes into Rocky's house, he starts talking about Adrian's brother's room, and then he picks up the photo of Sylvester Stallone's real son. The character of Creed, Michael B. Jordan, he asks him, and he tells him, yeah, it's my son. He lives far away. Sylvester Stallone delivered this perfectly, because if you don't know, Sylvester Stallone's son, actually in real life, he took his own life, and the scene was very powerful. I felt it. It was as he was explaining, because if your son lives in Canada, oh, but big whoop, he's still alive, he can come see you. But it was almost like none of those words were coming out, and it was like he was saying
he was holding back tears.
Yes,
he was holding back tears.
I love that scene.
That was and
Michael B. Jordan, he delivered that really good as an empathetic, like he's very empathetic, like you could just tell what was going on.
Yeah, and so at the end of the movie, whenever he's fighting, and Creed's face, the right side of his face, his eyes completely swollen shut.
It's like Rocky.
He's injured badly, and the ref is like, if you can't see, I'm going to call the fight. And he's like, don't call the fight, don't call the fight.
Rocky signals to him on his neck.
Yeah, the guy's like, how many fingers am I holding up? And he's like, 3. And he like taps him on the back of the neck. But Rocky had carried with him from the fourth movie the death of Apollo, because he didn't throw the towel in. So you could tell that his character was concerned. He didn't want to see Creed get hurt, but at the same time, he knew and understood that concept of never giving up, never stopping.
There's like a boxing male's fighter code where, yes, you should have each other's safety and mortality at mind, but I in a weird, dark way, I'm sure wrestling has some codes like this,
It does.
um, where the sport comes first, and a lot of people, even if they're probably going to die, they would rather go out um, as their last moments winning.
And
Or
they end Creed very similar to the way they end Rocky. He doesn't win, but he goes the distance.
Mhm.
He doesn't, he ends
Both
up
of them come
losing
out
by
strong.
decision. Yeah. And then the other fighter who had been talking shit to him the whole time comes up to him and says,
He has respect.
good job. I have respect for you. And he tells him you're the future of the sport. We haven't watched Creed 2, which brings in Dolph Lundgren again and Dolph Lundgren's son. So there's this whole other aspect of this is the guy that murdered my dad, and it's his son, and there's this whole aspect.
Yeah, I want to see that
Yeah,
because that
so
was one of my favorite Rockies. Was the Russian one? That was my favorite.
so a few things I want to point out before we bounce from here that I do want to kind of wrap up when talking about Rocky is that one of the things I was talking to my dad about it the other day because they always talked about Rocky a lot whenever I was growing up is Rocky is so quintessentially American that I think if you took this movie and you showed it to someone who lived in, Ireland or Ethiopia or whatever, you could show them Wizard of Oz, everyone will connect with it. You could show them certain movies, everyone will connect with it. But I think Rocky is so quintessentially American that some other cultures would have a hard time connecting with it
Yeah,
because of the Philadelphia aspect of it.
I mean, there's Southern country men and women who have a hard time connecting with Rocky, but somehow they still do because that's just how powerful Sylvester Stallone's acting, the writing of the movies are. But I will say it does reach out mostly to like Northern Italian, American Italian.
Which is American. I mean, it's the immigrants at that time. That's something we forget about because of everything going on in the world today and the idea of what an immigrant
Oh
is.
no, everybody thinks just because you're Italian or white,
Well,
but
back in the 70s,
it's not
the
true.
Italians were the quintessential idea of what a successful immigrant was because the way immigration happened back then was so different than it is now. And that's not to say that there isn't successful immigrants now. I'm just saying that the idea of an immigrant in the 70s was so ingrained in American culture that the movie itself is Americana because of this gentleman who is an immigrant.
Yes, and
So it's
I
just
do want to add this because I recently done my ancestry DNA testing stuff. I got all these like really old photos from my mom's Italian side, my great grandmother and her parents that came to this country, I think in the 30s or 40s. The only reason, so Italians are just as much like Spanish, like Ro- uh, Rome, European, same thing.
European.
It's just back then, they were coming in when Americans needed them because the mines
Well, there was
needed workers. So what they did was they made it to where Italians were labeled as white because they needed them to come in and do mining work for them. Versus now, if this would have happened, they would have been called spics, wops, everything racial. Um, and that's kind of so basically Italians kind of were one of the first groups to come in. They were used, but I mean it gets a little political when you get
Well, we
into
see
that.
this in movies that every so many generations, there is a handful of movies that represent a certain culture and show us what
I think we need
real
more
culture is.
Italian.
You have films, like Boys in the Hood that show the positive and the negative side of that culture. Even like Training Day, and all these cultures have their own code of ethics and how that they live, and it's all American and it's all Americana. So but the Rocky films are so quintessentially Italian American that it's just hard to escape, and a lot of that has to do with Stallone.
That's why I like the fact that we're shifting the franchise from Italian American thing to Afro American.
Hmm.
And because African American, and a lot of people will want to argue with me, it's not a whose ancestors suffered the most contest. But I do believe African American culture today is similar to the way Italian American culture was then, because it's just like then African American culture has been here a while, um, and a lot of people have different ideas of the culture, and I I think that's what this franchise's job is to do, is to show there's more to these cultures.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna act like I know anything about it because I don't exist in those cultures. But if Michael B. Jordan has a hand in it, and then Ryan Coogler has a hand in it, and these are two people from those cultures, I have a feeling that they are going to try and represent those cultures with respect. So, and give it up for him because Ryan Coogler is now he did Black Panther and then he did Sinners. This guy is on, I mean, literally maybe one of the best directors in the past 20 years. I mean, he is on a roll. Sinners, Creed won Academy Awards, Sinners won Academy Awards, Black Panther won Academy Awards. Ryan Coogler's an
Oh
amazing
yeah,
director. I'm excited to see anything he has coming out the pipeline. The other thing I was going to mention about Rocky is about him and his son, and it's that both him he had such a big impact on independent filmmaking because of the movie Rocky, and then his son also had such a huge impact on independent films because he helped introduce
like Grindhouse.
European grindhouse films and helped create the grindhouse brand that brought a lot of these horror films that we hold near and dear, helped with the restoration of them and getting them released after the Video Nasties ban.
Which one of the movies was?
The Beyond, Cannibal Holocaust, a handful of these horror films. So both of them had their hand in independent films and helping shape the way we all see independent films and how successful they can be.
Which I kind of like that, because it's like it kind of seems like his son was raised kind of like how I was, to respect Italian culture, pop culture. Because if I had that money, like say my mom would have gotten famous back in the day, that's the first thing I would have done was try to like make a living off of bringing other Italian artists and projects up. Because Italians, the culture always does get more dismissed into the white bucket, and they're not oppressed. So, um, and I mean, I'm one to talk. I didn't even know that there was such thing as giallos until I met Matt, and found one of my favorite Italian horror movies,
Subgenres.
Suspiria and The Beyond, and so I'm just as guilty. So really, not just Italian. Hammer Films. What's the Let the Right One In? What culture is that from?
I think that's Swedish.
Swedish. I mean, we need to
Swedish, yes.
definitely expand our horizons. I mean, like I said, we got a lot of Russia, Ukraine stuff going on right now, but and Gaza. Um, but I feel like we shouldn't focus too much on the politics of things. Um, I mean, it's not a bad thing to be Caucasian, anyways, but we don't want to ignore people's cultures, because things like this are great in Italian culture, Swedish culture, African American culture. I mean, like Sinners. That was a great example of a mixture of cultures. What happens when cultures come together? You had like Asian characters, African American, white, and they displayed a lot of music, not just the horror genre, but it kind of like Rocky. It put like drama in the middle of music and horror and supernatural. I mean, everything we've talked about this evening, has a lot to do with culture, America, and
You would be
nostalgia.
surprised. Hey, listen, the one thing that they say is what crosses all boundaries is film, music, and food. Film, music, and food. Those things tend to cross boundaries and bring everyone together. So, if you want to come together and celebrate film, music, food, and wrestling, you can do that at WrestleScream.
Yeah, you'll never. I'm sorry, but I've never heard of a convention that's built off of wrestling and horror movie conventions. And
You can get your tickets online at WrestleScream.com, taking place October 9th and 10th. And on each evening, we will be bringing you NWA Crossfire Presents Black Harvest. This will be the 21st Black Harvest, and it will be taking place on each night during WrestleScream. And if you want to check us out, October or April 10th, we will be in Sevierville at the Sevierville Civic Center on 200 Gary Wade Boulevard. You can get your tickets online at KFW Wrestling Events. That's Never Back Down. So, guys, thank you so much. We'll be back with you next week, and I'm sure we'll have some fantastic topics. We got a lot of movies to watch, and we will be breaking some more news, hopefully on Never Back Down for the wrestling event on April 10th.
we may do a Nightmare on Elm Street
We may
next
do
week.
some Nightmare on Elm Street stuff, just to celebrate the fact that we're bringing in quite a few Nightmare on Elm Street stars, including Tuesday Night Ken Sagos, and multiple other ones. So, guys, we will see you next week, and thank you so much for everyone that posted comments and hung out with us for a little while.
And don't forget, go to the theaters to watch Ready or Not 2. Support Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yep, support Sarah Michelle Gellar. She needs it right now, guys. She seems sad.
WrestleScream